Hello, boils and ghouls. Welcome to episode 194 of Dads from the Crypt. My name is Jason. Joining me tonight is Jody.
Hello.
Hello. Mondo is out traveling, so we have a wonderful guest for us tonight. Her name is Jen, and she's the host of the Scream Queen podcast. Welcome.
Hi. Yes. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here with you guys. Yeah.
All right. Always a pleasure to have a new guest on. And why don't you tell people about your podcast?
So I have a podcast. It's called Scream Queen Podcast, where I connect the true horrors with the horrors on Scream. It's a very similar format to your podcast where I go through a synopsis of the movie and then I go through the themes of it, and I usually have a guest on. And then I connect I guess the difference would be I connect the true horrors. And then I also do like a little nightcap of like any horror news and stuff like that. That's something new where I added in. But yeah, it's weekly. I have a theme of the month. Right now I'm doing all zombie movies. So fun.
Nice. Yeah, I listened to your Friday 13th episode, and I like that you brought in the true crime bits in there. That was a nice touch. I like that.
Thanks. Yeah.
What zombie movies are you planning for June?
I'm calling it June of the Dead. And so I did 28 days later. Tomorrow,
Nice.
28 weeks later. Then I have Dawn of the Dead and Day of the Dead, the originals.
Nice.
Very cool. Yeah, because the Day of the Dead 4th anniversary is coming up. We did that one a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah. Nice.
It's fun to do a run of movies too that all connect like that. You know, when you're reviewing stuff. We're doing something like that coming up soon. I don't know if we've announced it, so I don't know if I should say anything or not, but we're gonna do something like that soon.
Yeah. Well, I'm super excited for 28 years later, which is coming out on the 20th. So that's kind of the reason why I chose zombies, is because of that. And yeah, I love that that franchise.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, that first one was probably like the scariest zombie movie I've seen, like in a theater, like viscerally like afraid of a zombie movie. It's probably the only one that's really scared me was the original 20 Days Later. Just hadn't seen something quite that visceral before.
Yeah, the way it's shot, like the cinematography is beautiful in that movie. It was so purposeful. And then I connected, like the scariest part is the military. It's not even the zombies, like the guys that want to, use the women as, their sex slaves, basically. It's really messed up. I actually connect it to I don't know if you've ever heard of Comfort Women. They were
World
so
War
I
II.
connected to that. The Japanese, they took women, Chinese women, but it was also like Korean women and all kinds of other stuff. And yeah, it was really messed up. But
well, on a lighter note, this comes out the day after Father's Day, so we hope everyone had a good Father's Day. That's always a fun time. And we have a special Father's Day present that we're going to give all of our listeners because Jody and Mondo are going to Chattanooga Film Festival. I'm going on a little vacation as well. So we have a week where we're not going to have a chance to record. So we're actually putting out the Mike Vosberg documentary for everyone to watch on YouTube. That's the one that I went to Mike Vosberg, who did all of the Tales from the Crypt covers that you see at the beginning of every episode. He's a famous comic book artist, worked on everything from Marvel and DC and GI Joe and plenty more. I went to his house and did a whole tour of his like private collection and sat with him. We just kind of talked about comic books and the whole creative process, and he spent like almost a year making a very amateur documentary, but I think Crypt fans will find a lot of never before seen pictures and drawings and stories that I think you all will really enjoy. So that's something we're putting for free on YouTube for everyone to watch, but there will not be an podcast.
Of course, the most important thing that Mike Vosberg has done is he actually drew us, which is still insane to me that we have something
Right.
called Mike Vosberg that has my face on it. Like, I don't know what to do with that.
Right. That's still kind of mind blowing.
Yeah.
So yeah,
That's
so that's our
amazing.
Father's Day. Yeah. So that's our Father's Day gift to everybody. Whether you're a father or not, all can enjoy it.
Well, happy
Now
Father's
for
Day to you too, as well.
Thank you. All right, and then this week we are reviewing the Monster Squad. I always forget to say the, so I have to keep reminding myself about that. And of course, we are choosing movies that tie into Fright Rags, the clothing and apparel, and many more items. Yes, yeah. I think this is a Fright Rag shirt. Joey's
I'm
wearing
wearing
a Fright
Fright
Rag
Rags
shirt.
tonight.
Yeah, pretty much most of my shirts are Fright Rag by this point. They have an excellent the Monster Squad collection that just came out as the day that we're recording this. When this comes out on Monday the 16th at midnight is when the 1 week or window ends. So hopefully you're listening to this on the day it drops. Go out, order it. I'm sure they bring a lot of this stuff back. So if you miss it, they usually bring these kind of things back eventually. So be on the lookout for that. But again, tonight we are talking about the Monster Squad. Came out August 14th, 1987. And I obviously I watched the movie, but then I also watched, there's a great documentary called Wolfman's Got Nards. It's free on Plex and I think other places as well. So I literally just finished watching that. Excellent documentary. So at least I'll be referencing that as well as we talk about it. But Jody, tell me what this movie's about.
All right. So before I get into the actual plot description, because I'm sure it's going to come up, if you make a movie in the 80s that depicts like little shithead boys that are like, like 11, 12 years old, and you depict the way that they actually talk, they're going to say some stuff that is bad in 2025. And we know it's bad now. Watch The Goonies. The Goonies did the same thing. Like there's some lines in here that you go, ooh, that's a little painful now. Just want to go ahead and get that out of the way because I know it'll come up at some point.
We'll talk about the PC-ness of it all, but yeah.
Yeah. So Monster Squad. It's a group of preteens. They all like the Universal Monster movies. There's some other kids that are kind of coming into the fold. There's little sister Phoebe, who's the little sister of Sean. He's kind of like the leader of the group. There is the cool kid, Rudy, who's a little bit older than them. There's a little guy named Eugene. Anyway, so Sean gets a copy of Van Helsing's diary from an old house, and it's in German, so he can't do much with it. So they go to visit their neighbor, who they call the scary German guy, and he helps them translate. There's a lot of things happening at once, so I might jump around a little bit. So they go to him, and he helps them translate some stuff. He's actually not scary. He's a concentration camp survivor. He's one of the good guys. Not scary German. He's a nice German. But the diary describes this amulet, and this amulet is what keeps Dracula and his forces sealed, but it's invulnerable. And it cannot be destroyed except for one day every century, and that day is coming up. And so the Monster Squad wants to protect the amulet, whereas Dracula wants to get a hold of the amulet, because if he gets a hold of it, then he can be freed from limbo and basically rule the world. it didn't have to make a ton of sense. It's fine. The amulets, it's One-Eyed Willie's treasure. I mean, it's just is a thing for them to do so they can go out on an adventure together. But the reason why we're here is Dracula does appear and starts gathering a squad of monsters to retrieve this amulet. He brings out the mummy, he brings out the Wolfman, Gillman, a bunch of lady vampires, and then he uses some corpses on an airplane to make Frankenstein's monster. Frankenstein's monster, though, is not really down with everything that Dracula's doing. He actually meets the kids, and especially the little girl, Phoebe, and he's nice to her because she's nice to him. She shows him kindness. They become friends. So he's not evil, and he's on their side against Dracula. And so there's this stone room underneath the house where the amulet is, and the monsters can't get to it, but the kids can because of it's some magic stuff, whatever. So the German guy tells them, hey, there's this incantation that if you read it, it will open up a hole to limbo and all the monsters will get sucked back in. More specifically, if a virgin reads this incantation. So they recruit one of the boys' older sisters to read it. They can't get into this church to do it, but so they do it out in the parking lot. Turns out, not quite as much of a virgin as she said. So they're having trouble finding one, which I will admit. I'm watching all these little 11-year-old boys. I'm like, you can't find a virgin? There's a bunch of 11-year-old boys running around. Like, right. Everyone's virgin in this movie.
It never clarifies it has to be a virgin girl. Like any of them could have done it.
I guess maybe they just assumed that at some point because they pick Phoebe, the little sister, who obviously she can't even read English. So the German guy reads lines to her and she translates. Meanwhile, all the boys run around fighting the various monsters and killing them. There's a heavyset kid named Horace who got picked on earlier in the movie, and he kicks the Wolfman between the legs and says and when the Wolfman collapses, he's like, oh, Wolfman's got nards. There's the line that's the title of the documentary. Later, Horace is running away from Gillman, and the bullies are like in the store behind him and won't let him in, and he shoots them, and they come out and say something like, oh, hey, fat kid. And he's like, my name is Horace. And cocks the shotgun. Yeah, all kinds of fun moments. But anyway, so the little girl finally says the incantation enough. It opens up a hole. All the monsters start getting sucked in. And she says goodbye to Frankenstein. She doesn't want him to go, but he goes anyway. And she gives him a teddy bear as he goes off into the void. And about that time, just impeccable timing, the army shows up after everything's over. And they are there to fight the monsters. And he says, so what happened here? And what's going on? Can anyone explain? And that's when Sean says, we can. We're the Monster Squad. And then we get my favorite thing in 80s movies, a rap that recaps the entire movie. So if you didn't watch it, you can just listen to the soundtrack because it recaps everything that happened. Yeah, I love that. I think more movies should end with a rap like that, especially if it's a confusing movie.
Yeah, what I want is someone to retroactively go around and make raps for movies that even have that to start with.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Someone for like Casablanca or Gone with the Wind. Someone just makes like ending credit rap songs to recap the movies for people.
I'm just thinking movies that are tonally like the rap would not work, but it'd be really funny to have it happen after, like Hereditary. Hereditary ends with the rap about how mom's mean to the kids and everyone's fighting. It saws off her head. The end.
I mean,
great song.
Schindler's List. Come on.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
All right. Jen, you're our guest. You can start us off. What do you think of this movie?
So it was made the year I was born. And I feel like that was a good year for horror. Mm-hmm. Hellraiser also came out this year. There are a few others that are really good in horror. I feel like there should be like a Zodiac thing for like horror movies and when you were born. Should be made. Definitely some things that don't age well here. Definitely a generation of latchkey kids, which is very evident in this movie. Phoebe was my favorite character. I fucking love that little kid.
Yeah.
She calls them chicken shit at some point because of Frankenstein. And then Dracula calls a 5-year-old a bitch.
He does. Yeah, that's a thing that happens.
He's like holding her by her face and he's like, you bitch. And I'm like, what the fuck? That's
80s, especially like children's. I mean, I would almost qualify this as a children's. It's right on the edge of children's movie, like Gateway. But man, the stuff that we got away with in the 80s was nuts.
Well, but then again, okay, we can get the whole PC thing, but like that's the way a lot of kids talked back in the 80s. That's the way a lot of kids talked in the 90s. That's the way a lot of kids talk now, and not for better or for worse. And there's definitely an authenticity.
They shouldn't.
I mean, I think they should
be talking that
some
way.
kids. But I'm saying, but there's an authenticity to that I kind of appreciate. It's like it's hard to. Yes, I've watched this with my kids, and I told them, and I said like these are the bullies. This is how they understand. That's not how kids should talk, but there are bullies have always existed. They always will exist. I'm not defending that behavior, but it is realistic behavior.
I mean, if you watch any 80s movie with kids that are talking naturally, I mean, like I said, Goonies is all kinds of stuff. Like the first time I watched it as an adult, I'm like, oh wow, I had no idea all this was in this movie. I mean, even E.T., like they yell like, what's she call him, penis breath or something like that at the table, or like, yeah,
there's all kinds of really inappropriate things. It's just like funny to look back on. Definitely, it's from its time, and I think it's hilarious watching it. But it's also like, holy fuck. This is why we're all in therapy and medicated.
And also, most of that like bullying and language and stuff is at the very, very beginning of the movie. So you're kind of like, oh, it kind of hits you really hard being front like that.
Yeah. Well, Phoebe, I mean, she's supposed to be 5. And for a 5-year-old, she's extremely advanced. She references like the Vietnam War and Rambo. It's like, what is this 5-year-old? Like... She calls, amazing. What does she say? Okay, I have another little quote in here that she says. She says, what is this? The Masters of the Universe Woman Haters Club? She's 5. She's 5 and she's a feminist. I love it.
These latchkey kids, they grew up fast.
They did.
Well, you got to.
They're not the same anymore. Like 5-year-olds are innocent now.
Unless they're on TikTok and then they just say all kinds of nonsense.
Well,
yeah, I guess.
But the difference is not saying it to anyone like there. They're just saying it to the ether of the internet.
Yes,
yeah.
Sure.
What was another? Is it Sean was like the main badass guy? Yeah. So he was like a little bit older than them.
Oh, that's Rudy. Sorry.
Rudy,
sorry. How old was Rudy? Do we know for sure?
I think like 12-ish.
Yeah, I feel like
he was smoking.
Something that an 11-year-old would look up to and be like, "Oh yeah, so old," you know.
Leather jacket smoking. Yeah.
And drinking a beer. He was drinking a beer while he was talking to Frankenstein.
That's true.
Unlabeled.
I mean,
but it was a beer. Unless it was a Malta and we just didn't know.
Right.
Yeah, I thought that was hilarious. Yeah, there are some. The parents pissed me off in this movie. Like the one dad of that kid that was like, there's a monster in my closet.
Oh, yeah. It's like making fun of the kid.
Yeah. He's making fun of him. And then he's like, oh, I'm going to open the closet. And he opens the closet and there's a mummy in the closet. And he doesn't even look back. And he's like,
if you make me come back here, and then he like turns and he's like, if you make me come back here, like you're not going to sleep with us tonight or something. He like does some weird non-threat, but it was such like a asshole 80s father thing to do. It's like, you know,
I was thinking while watching this that it makes me feel better about, you know, mistakes I've made as a parent, because all these parents in these movies are terrible. They're just mean.
Yeah.
Well, then there's the main character's father, who is the cop, who's like trying to get out of him and his wife's marriage counseling by going back to work. He's like doing everything he can to avoid marriage counseling, and then he like climbs up on the roof with his son. It's a sweet. That was kind of a sweet moment though, and I liked like the diorama or the map painting bit that they had going on. That was cool.
But then right after that scene, he and the mom got into like a screaming match while the kids could still hear. You know, they're just great.
And that never figures into the plot, which is even weird, which is like.
No, I think the mom just eventually forgives him because he ends up saving their kids. Like, what else could you want? Like, he ended up being a really great dad. I would say he was probably the best dad out of all of them. I mean, they only show like 2 dads, but
yeah, it's a low bar.
We never got to see Rudy.
At least
I want to see Rudy's home life. What is that? What is his life?
not good.
Yeah, the cool kid who could smoke and drink beer at 13 probably did not come from a cool family.
No, or they're just way too cool for.
Oh, I see. Or they're really cool.
Yeah.
And also, so the mom is played by Mary Ellen Trainor, who's also the mom from like the Goonies and Tales from the Crypt, All Through the House episode, which Fred Dekker, the director of this movie, also happened to write. So there's a lot of interesting connections there.
Nice.
All right, Jody, go ahead.
Yeah. So I did not come to this movie as a kid. Like, I feel like I would have a completely different reaction to it if I had watched it when I was like 11. But my horror journey started with Goosebumps and then jumped to like slashers a few years later. And this felt like, what little I knew about it, it felt more like something for kids. I didn't realize that it actually is, you know, like more adult than something like Goonies. It's like somewhere in between, you know. But me at 17 watching Scream, this felt like a kid's movie. And so I didn't watch it as a teenager, and I didn't come to it until I was an adult. But going back and watching it, I mean, obviously I mentioned it a couple of times. It reminded me of Goonies a lot. There are some really fun things with monsters in there, and I love the design of the monsters. Like, I love the way, especially Gilman, the way he looks when he pops up out of the water. He's awesome looking. The Wolfman's kind of weird. He's kind of a little cat wolf man, but sure, whatever. Either way, it was a creative like interpretation of all these monsters. They didn't just, I'm sure part of that's copyright, but it wasn't just, you know, the like classic versions of all of them. I like the sympathetic Frankenstein who gets along with the little girl. Now that I'm a dad, listening to like the brother like yell at the little girl to go away, I'm like, oh, we need to talk. Like, you're being an ass kid. Yeah, it's a fun movie. It's one that I want to watch with my kids. I haven't yet. It just, again, because I didn't grow up with it, it never came up. But I think it's one that they'll enjoy, with probably a little context put in there about, you know, what the 80s were like, and the 90s, and too many decades. But yeah, it's, you know, it's got a little more of an edge to it than a lot of the stuff that that it reminds me of. You know, there's blood. When things get shot, they die. They maybe come back. I loved the Wolfman blowing up and reassembling himself. That was really cool. It did make me laugh though, because the sheriff encounters, or the policeman encounters Dracula, and Dracula does the thing that Dracula is known for. He pulls out a stick of dynamite and throws it at the sheriff.
Oh my God, I love that.
Dynamite. He's like Elmer Fudd over here. But It's silly. There's, I mean, it is. It's got some Looney Tunes to it. It's got some Tales from the Crypt to it. Like they know they're silly in some places and they have fun with it. I like the kids. You know, they're all kind of annoying, but every 11-year-old boy I've ever known is kind of annoying, so that didn't bother me. It's just part of being that age and you know, finding your way. So yeah. It's a lot of fun. It's one that I wish I had seen as a kid, but even as an adult, there's a lot of things to appreciate about it.
Yeah. I think kind of on the note of how you were talking about Wolfman and all of them, I really like this scene with the mummy where he like shoots the arrow into the tree and then it unravels the mummy, and I thought that the graphics on that was actually really good, like showing like it kind of him disappearing. And unraveling, Frankenstein had great shoes.
Yeah.
I love that effect of the mummy though, because you could see his legs and they're kicking while it's unraveling, and so you see it like disappear. I was like, this is some good effects work going on here.
Yeah, I mean, this is Stan Winston, like, you know, 80s Stan Winston. You just can't beat that. And yeah, the Gillman design is my all-time favorite of that interpretation of that character. It is flawless. It is peak. The Frankenstein is one of the most the Frankenstein is one of the most emotive Frankensteins that we have, and we got a fantastic actor. I looked him up. It's Tom Noonan. And he was Dollarhide in Manhunter, just like a year before the Red Dragon movie. And he was also RoboCop 2 as Kane. So this is a guy with some serious acting range. And again, you were talking about Dracula with dynamite. Like, this might be one of the most like vicious Draculas I think we've ever had. Like, Dracula's always been a bad guy, but like he throws dynamite into the kids' clubhouse. It says meeting adjourned as he walks away and it explodes. And then he throws dynamite under a cop car of the only person of color in the entire movie, and blows him up. And he's just like blowing shit up back and forth. And then like the cops, he's like walking towards the kids, and then there's a group of cops just kind of run towards him. He's just like snapping necks left and right.
Oh yeah,
picking up that little girl. Like, he is a mean Dracula, which I kind of love, because this movie's obviously supposed to be a comedy, but it takes the villains so seriously and like puts the time and effort to really make the monsters. And I think this movie would have fallen apart pretty easily if they didn't really put in that kind of effort to the monsters. I mean, you got to have the monsters. If you're the Monster Squad, you need good monsters. And I think that's like the biggest strength in all this. Because it's a very silly movie, but it's still got those grounded moments, especially even with strange German guy, where like, you must know a lot about monsters, sir. And then like he says, yes, I do. And you see the tattoo from the concentration camp. You're like, oh, yeah, okay. So
that was like super deep.
Like, yeah, exactly. So there's a lot like going on amongst all this, like Wolfman's got nards and stuff. It's like almost like Abbott and Costello meets the Goonies. When you think about it, like, or sorry, like as Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein, it's the Goonies meet Frankenstein. Is kind of my knowledge, the kind of Amblin-ness of it all. And my only concern is this movie is only 82 minutes long.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's a lot that got edited out because there's like almost too many characters. Now none of this really matters because it just makes the movie go by so quickly, because we easily combine like two of the kids. Like, there's those two kind of main kids. Like, you'd expect at one point there to be like some like division between the two of them. They get into a fight or something. That never really happens. There's like there's no real consequence of that. So they could have easily really just been one character. So I'm curious if there's stuff that was cut out, because again, according to the documentary, the original script was like almost 1,000 pages long, so they had to cut down a whole bunch. Like, they had like a whole opening sequence in Transylvania. We didn't talk about that in the opening. It's got one of the best like what's it called when they open with like not narration, but with text. That's this great text opening about Van Helsing, and he's going after Dracula, and then it says, "But they blew it." Like that's the moment where you're like, okay, we're in for something a little irreverent here because it's got this like high fantasy opening and text and stuff, and you're like, but no, they blew it.
It's funny that you mentioned that because I remember that opening scene, and it's very funny because they're like, well, they blew it, but did they really blow it? Because the beginning and the ending scene parallel each other, and they do the exact same thing.
Yeah, what did they blow?
Yeah.
Oh, and I love at the very end where like Van Helsing's in the vortex and he gives him a thumbs up.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah.
What is happening?
A very common thing from a man from the 1800s to do. Yeah. Thanks for getting Dracula for me, kid.
But again, then you have these really silly moments. And then you have the like the heartbreaking moment of the girl has to let her best friend Frankenstein get sucked in the vortex, and she throws him her stuffy. Like, you know, as parents, there's nothing more sacred to a little child than a stuffy. And if that child's going to give the stuffy to someone, that's like the most important gesture that they can do. And you're just like, oh, my heart, it breaks.
I also, as a parent, though, I know that tomorrow she's going to be like wishing she had it back, and I'm going to feel bad because I'm like, Frankenstein's got it now. He's in limbo.
She's looking for the amulet to find them again because she wants her stuffy back.
We need to summon Frankenstein just so we can get this back because she won't sleep now.
Right.
Yeah, because apparently the only virgin is a 5-year-old little girl, so she can definitely bring them back.
That was cracking me up because they were like, "Do we know any virgins? We can't find any." I'm like, you're all like 11-year-olds, like every single one of you. I don't know what you're looking for.
Yeah.
I mean, Rudy's definitely not a virgin, but
I mean, he's smoking the cigarettes, you know. That's what you get.
Yeah. He's lived his life. He's lived a life.
Speaking of Rudy, I just want to apologize on behalf of all little boys who grew up in the 80s. We didn't all peep in windows, but in movies, like everybody peeped in windows all the time, constantly. But it didn't really happen as much, I don't think.
Yeah, no, that scene is, I mean, those scenes are definitely jarring. And now, as an adult to watch, it's like, that is a little girl, and you're putting her on screen and sexualizing her in such a way. And then Frankenstein taking whatever picture he took that they couldn't even show. And then Rudy's like using it as a blackmail so that she admits that she's a virgin so that she can be the reader of the thing. It's just so convoluted and like fucked. Oh my God.
Yeah, looking back on all the movies I grew up with, it's not a surprise that a lot of guys do not know how to relate to women because we were not taught very much in the movies we grew up with.
No. So this movie was directed by Fred Dekker, mostly known. His prior movie to this was Night of the Creeps. He also did RoboCop 3. He directed an episode of Tales from the Crypt, A Thing from the Grave. He also wrote 4 more episodes of Tales from the Crypt. He's one of the most prolific Tales from the Crypt writers. Also co-written by Shane Black, who did movies like Lethal Weapon, Last Action Hero, Long Kiss Goodnight, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, Iron Man 3. And they also, shockingly, he did like ghost writing for The Predator. So speaking of more overly masculine toxic characters. But again, these are the guys who grew up on all these movies, the Universal Monster movies, and they like, well, we want to make our own like version of that with their 80s sensibilities. And the movie unfortunately kind of bombed at the box office for a couple of reasons. Again, from what I got from the documentary, one, it came out 2 weeks after Lost Boys.
Oh, yeah, that's the same audience.
So, well, and Lost Boys was marketed to be like a little more mature, sexier movie. Where this movie, on paper, it looks like a kid's movie, but then it's PG-13. So it's like a kid can't go. A kid needs to bring their parents to go see this. So there's a little bit of a dissonance there, where they're trying to go with something a little bit more mature. But yeah, so that's kind of, and the marketing wasn't handled very well. There's a poster they did where it was like wanted posters for each of the monsters. So for Dracula, he was one for assault and battery, BATTUR.
Yeah.
And then for the mummy, it was for statutory rapping. Yeah.
Okay.
Jeez.
That was something a studio put together as
They
marketing
really
material
weren't
for a
helping
movie.
themselves with that.
Yeah.
Like that just doesn't sound PG-13 at all.
No.
Like I
No.
mean, yeah.
So the kids that like the older kids are gonna like, this looks too kiddie. The kiddie kids are gonna, the movie looks too mature for, so it didn't really have an audience. So the movie kind of went to HBO, you know, at that time where they didn't have a ton of content. It's one of those that got played a lot. So they kind of built their audience there. But I feel like especially during the 90s, this movie just kind of fell off the face of the earth and just kind of had like its cult status until like the early 2000s, where like there was a big campaign to try to get this movie on DVD. I think that's what kind of reignited the audience. I wish I'd saw this maybe as a kid, but you know, as a younger teen, I think I would have really loved this movie. It just wasn't on my radar at the time. I didn't see it till like I was in my mid-20s when they kind of had this revival.
Yeah, no, I would have loved this movie as a kid. It would have like probably been too much for me if I was like the age, you know, that I was 7 when this came out. I couldn't have seen it then and really gotten much out of it. But maybe by the time I was like 11 or 12 or something like that. But I was a monster kid. Like I loved monster books, and especially the Universal monsters. They were my first monsters. So I probably would have loved this. I just didn't know about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I kind of had the same experience where like it came out the year I was born, so I obviously wasn't going to watch it then. But by the time that it became on my radar, I was already older and already watching like slashers and stuff. So going back to like this kid horror movie wasn't really something that I was going to do. And I had already watched movies like The Goonies and stuff and really enjoyed those movies. And so, yeah, it definitely got lost to me. And I do like this movie, apart from all my critiques about the kids and stuff and the fucked up things that happen. It's just like, it's more observational stuff than actual, like, you know, it's of the time. It's
Oh, and speaking of that, I love that one of the main bullies is the kid who would go on to play Wayne from Wonder Years, the older brother who bullies.
Think of every time I see that kid.
Oh my god, that's like the bully. I remember growing up was Wayne from the Wonder Years. That guy like traumatized me like secondhand just from watching it.
Yeah, that was one of those shows that I feel like was always on. I guess it was syndicated, but like I don't remember ever like sitting down like I'm going to sit down and watch this episode of The Wonder Years. But I watched like 100 episodes in parts because it was always playing somewhere.
Right.
But yeah,
I definitely remember sitting with my family and watching, especially like the finale. I remember sitting watching the finale with my family. That was a big deal. Yeah, this movie's just so much fun. It goes, it's 82 minutes, which is extremely short. It just flies by, but there's just so much good stuff. And again, the monsters are just so freaking cool and well done. You guys knock me sometimes for not liking quote fun movies for the sake of fun, but this is one that like gets it, where it's not like overly silly. And it keeps things moving, and you know, it's just thoroughly joy.
There is some stuff that just brings you back to childhood in this movie, where in particular, the beginning scene when the two boys are in the principal's office and they have the picture of the monster that they drew, and he's like, I know you guys like monsters, but science is real. Monsters aren't real. And they're like, we don't know that because they're kids. and they believe in monsters.
I mean, that's exactly the kind of kid, though, I was, growing up. I wouldn't talk back to authority because I was also not a kid who got in trouble ever.
Right.
But the whole thing, like wanting to believe in all this stuff, like I said in a recent episode, cryptids were my first monsters, and like aliens, Bigfoot, stuff like that. I wanted to believe in all that stuff, and so maybe I didn't believe in Dracula, but I would have been just like them. Like, we don't know. How can you say that?
Yeah, no, it's this very like innocent, childlike moment, and it's really like, it's like, yeah, kid, you would definitely monsters are real to you, like, but they mean, and
there's
I mean,
that
at least in
wonderful
this
shot.
universe, huh?
I was there's that wonderful shot where they're all walking down the street with Frankenstein, and it's like backlit against the sunset. It's like, okay, who doesn't want that in their life? Doesn't want to go walk off the sunset with Frankenstein. That's all we want as kids.
Mm-hmm. And there are just a lot of really cute moments between the kids and the monsters that are like a little bit more innocent, not violent. Like whenever the creature from the Black Lagoon, whenever he takes the Twinkie, and the kid's like, the monster took my Twinkie, and it's just like cute and fun.
Right. All right. Well, let's do our episode rating. We do 0 to 5, 5 being the best, 0 being the worst. You can do half points. Jen, why don't you start us off?
It's hard.
There's no right or wrong.
Yeah.
I hate this part.
Really liked this. So I'm going to say some positives before I do this. I mean, when it came to the cinematography, the special effects, the acting, I thought was phenomenal by these kids. Like, they were so good. The monsters were great. Oh, and one more thing about the Wolfman I wanted to mention. It was kind of like he had DID, like dissociative identity disorder, because he wanted like just the drastic difference between him as a human and then him as the Wolverine or the Wolfman was so good. I thought that was really good acting. I'm only going to knock off a point because of some of the stuff that, even for its time, I think the sexualization of the little girl could have, I still feel like even for the time, it kind of crossed the line a little bit. Because even in the time, like even in the time with those movies, whenever they were doing that, they still had like, it was like a 20-year-old playing a 13-year-old.
Yeah.
And so it was like, okay, well, I know they're supposed to be this age, but really they're this age. And I'm not seeing that with this little girl.
Yeah.
I don't know her.
I was never fully sure how old she was supposed to be. I assumed like an older teen. Like she was played by like a 20-something-year-old probably, but
was she? Because she still looked really young. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, are you talking about the older sister, younger sister?
Yeah.
Older sister.
Yeah. I mean, she's supposed to be, I would assume she's a high schooler. So yeah, it's still really creepy.
Yeah, it's still really creepy, but she didn't look like those other movies that you see where they're playing like a high schooler and they're being sexualized and stuff. Like they're older, like in their 20s. She still looked very young to me. I don't know. We have to look up her age for this movie, but I'm knocking it off a point because of that creepy factor.
All right, that's fair. Wait, so what was your score?
4 out of 5.
4 out of 5. Okay. That's not that's a good score. It's a very good score. Yeah. All right, Cody.
Quick update. She was 21, but
she was.
Yeah, she just looks young.
Okay, I feel better.
They depicted her as young. So, it's one of those things like watching American Pie or something like that. And you're like, okay, so yeah, I get that she's, in her 20s, but she looks like she's 17. So, and you're saying she's 17. So what am I supposed to think about this? Yeah, I get it. Yeah, if I had watched this as a 12-year-old, I probably would still have all the nostalgia and everything. And, I'd give this like 5 out of 5 for that. But just in the way that I've received it, I'm going to go with like 3.5 out of 5. I like it a lot. It's a little messy, and it shows its age a lot, but there's a lot to enjoy in it.
All right. Yeah, I'm going 4 as well. The effects are amazing. It's just tons and tons of fun. I just wish it was longer and maybe some of the characters were fleshed out a little bit more.
Sure.
I wouldn't want that in exchange for the fun and swiftness of the movie, but 82 minutes, come on. you can do a little bit more to make some of the characters, pay off a little bit. But it is extremely memorable, criminally underrated in its time. Really deserved a lot more. And I feel for a lot of the creators, because again, I highly recommend anyone that likes this movie to go watch the Wolfman Has Nards documentary, because a lot of them, like, it kind of came out and nothing happened, and they just thought that no one cared about this movie for like 15 years until the internet kind of brought it all back together, which there's quite a few fandoms where that has happened.
Especially HBO in the 80s and 90s, where they just would play the same stuff over and over again. Like, a lot of people found their favorite movie that way.
Yeah, but they probably just got their residual check and just figured that's just being
watching
it.
I'm saying that doesn't help the creators. It helps like the cult following develop over time.
Right, that cultivated the cult following. Yes, so I'm just really happy. It's really cool to see it kind of pay off. And like one of the sad thing is though that the actor who plays Horace passed away before, like in the late 90s from like pneumonia and the bad medication thing. So like he didn't even get to live to see like it all kind of come back together. So yeah, but again, I'm giving this a 4. I'll probably give just the Wolfman Had Nards. I'm giving that a 5. I think it's spectacular watch. Really fun.
Is it one of those documentaries that's longer than the movie? Because I love those.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's one of my favorite things is when the documentary about a movie is longer, or the making of is longer than the movie itself. That's why
I'll watch a good time. I'll watch a 3-hour documentary about an 1.5-hour movie and not think a thing about it.
Oh my god, yes.
So I have a question for you. When I looked at IMDb, it said that this was like $15 million to make or something.
Yeah, I mean, IMDb, you take everything there with a grain of salt, and whether it's inflation, yada yada yada.
But, I'm like, that can't be true.
I mean, there's some major effects going on there. I could see that.
There are. It's really good quality, but I'm like, even like 15 million for that time is a lot of money.
Yeah. It's hard to say how much of that is true or not. It says estimate. Okay. IMDb says budget 12 million estimated. So take from that what you will. But the gross worldwide again is 3.7. So that's still really
either way
not good.
Yeah.
But when it did have its finally gets DVD release, it was like one of the best selling DVDs of the year. So hopefully they got some justification in that.
Yeah, I know the same thing happened to what's it called? Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
Yeah, definitely.
Right? And they're trying to reboot that one right now.
Supposedly they're working on. I mean, they had the game did well. So yeah. There's a lot of fandoms like this. All right, so let's take a quick break and do a shout out.
Hello, everybody. This is Joe Lynch from Suitable Flesh, and you are listening to Dads from the Crypt.
Mr. Joe Lynch, him and Adam Green are both in the Wolfman's Got Nards documentary as well. So
cool.
You get to see much more of them. All right. Since Mondo's not here, I'm going to do Song of the Day. And since Mondo always chooses metal, I'm going to do something different. But we did get some sad news today that Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys passed away. And I've always been a lot of appreciation for the Beach Boys. My mom played them a lot when I was a kid, on the oldie stations and everything. And then I got into some of their other stuff like Pet Sounds. It's a really, really fantastic album. So just in tribute to them, to him especially, I'm going with I Just Wasn't Made for These Times from Beach Boys, Pet Sounds. And much like this movie just wasn't made for its time and, found its audience and its voice a little bit later. So that's my pick of the week.
I
All right.
I grew up with the oldie stations, and so
Mhm.
I love the Beach Boys. Yeah, it's a bad week for music. Brian Wilson died. Sly Stone from
Yeah.
Sly and the Family Stone also died a couple days ago, and another one of these dudes that made like half the songs you know.
Right. And then I saw just a little bit ago that the guy who plays the judge in Ghostbusters 2 passed away today.
Oh man,
So I know
rough
it's
day.
kind of a bummer there.
Bad
And
things
then
happen in threes, right?
Yeah.
That's what
well,
they
and
say.
then an MTV VJ, I never was into that kind of stuff, but I got like a CNN alert that she passed away as well. So
She's not counting.
yeah,
Bad things
okay.
happen in
I
threes.
wasn't sure that counted as the third for the day.
Oh, I thought you said 2 already. No.
Okay, I guess we got Sly and yeah.
Yeah, so
All
that'd
right.
be 4. Yeah.
All right, Jody, give us some horror news.
All right. I don't have a whole lot because we just recorded pretty recently, so I talked about everything then. But there are a couple things worth mentioning. There is a new Screen Life horror that just got a trailer today. Screen Life, the stuff that's like Unfriended or Searching, or those where it all takes place on a computer screen. Since I spend my life Screen Life. Yeah, that's what they're calling them. I don't know. It's the found footagey thing where it's on a computer.
Sure.
Host is probably one of my favorites of it. But this one stars Ariel Winter, who was on the show Modern Family. It's called Don't Log Off. I don't know much about it, but there is a trailer out there if you want to check it out. I like the Screen Life stuff. Generally, like that's a thing that works for me. So I will definitely check that out. I don't know if I mentioned. No, I've probably mentioned that it was coming out. But Clown in a Cornfield is out on VOD right now. I watched it last night with my daughters. Had a lot of fun with it. I mean, it's kind of teeny horror, but also the kills are pretty intense, and I like the Adam Caesar story that it's based on. I read the book, so yeah, I had a good time.
I really like that movie. It's also very much a queer horror movie, and we're in, Pride Month.
Yep.
And then honestly, I think that movie really is similar to The Monster Squad in a way that it kind of is in the middle of the genres. And I think that it made itself a little bit like it would have done better if it was PG-13 instead of rated R.
Yeah, I can see it going either direction and paying off a little bit better. Either it makes it PG-13 so everyone can watch it in the theater, or lean hard into that R and add, more gore and stuff. Somewhere it's hard to be that middle ground. It's R, but not hard R. You know what I mean? Like it's R because they say fuck a lot more than it's because of the blood or anything.
Yeah. I just feel like the characters themselves are very much like teen characters, and it's a really good intro to horror movie to me. Yeah. But then it takes itself away from that by being rated R.
It's one of those things like because streaming is such an equalizer with those kind of things, it's kind of interesting. So like when I watched Fear Street Prom Night, where it could easily have been a PG-13 movie, but there's a couple of fantastic gore bits that I appreciated. But because it's streaming, you kind of get the best of both worlds.
That's true. That's true.
I'm not advocating for
one way or the other. In the box office, like it didn't do, I think, as well. Or people like when they reviewed it, I felt really harsh with it. But I think it's because they were expecting it to be something more.
Yeah. No, I saw the same thing. I feel like the reviews were way too hard on it. I enjoyed it. I had a good time with it.
Yeah, it's definitely something I want to check out sooner than later.
One more quick thing. Robert Eggers is doing too much right now. He is a very busy man. He's got too many things happening. Because he is, let's see, what's the other one? He is working on a Labyrinth remake right now. He is working on a movie called Werewolf. It's a werewolf movie. And he is also making his own version of A Christmas Carol, I guess, for this year. that's too many movies to be working on all at once. But you know, he does good. He does his thing, and Robert Eggers, you know, takes the time to be artistic and everything else. So, I mean, if he can pull it off, that's a heavy load and a lot of expectation, particularly when you throw in Labyrinth. I feel like people are going to be harder on Labyrinth than they would anything else.
I feel that's a lot of William Dafoe. He's gonna be a very busy man.
Yeah, no, I want to see a version of Labyrinth where Willem Dafoe takes the David Bowie part.
Oh yeah, 1,000%.
I mean, we already know he could pull off some parts of the David Bowie costume. We've heard.
He's also the baby.
He is the baby. Yeah, man. But yeah, no, I'm definitely gonna check out probably all of these at some point. But that's just a wild schedule to be working on, and a lot of tonal difference too. You know, Christmas Carol, a werewolf movie, and Labyrinth all at the same time. That's
I'm not sure about the Labyrinth and the werewolf. We don't know anything about, but I could definitely see Christmas Carol. That'd be that'd be cool.
If he could do it like you know, very dark kind of, you know, ghosty story, actually bring the like scary parts of Christmas Carol back, I think it could be really good.
Yeah.
The Muppet Christmas Carol is always the best.
Yeah, well, yeah. No, that's the one I watch.
And Scrooged. I love Scrooged.
Yeah. But that's all. Like I said, we recorded very recently, so I already talked about everything. Go listen to our last episode if you want more.
All right. Thank you, Jody. All right, Jen, you are our guest. You're also a spooky mom, and you're also a teacher. So what advice would you like to give our audience?
So parenting advice to people in the horror community, I would just say I got my daughter into horror by gradually introducing her with movies like Monster House and Coraline. Mm-hmm. And I think the first real horror movie I showed her was Poltergeist. And she was like 11, which it was rated PG, you know? So
I think that was before PG-13 existed.
Yeah. I would say avoid watching really gory movies around your kids and traumatizing them. I don't know. I guess it just depends on the parenting advice. When it comes to movies like The Monster Squad and the way these parents are, let's learn from the past and not make the same mistakes. You know, don't curse at your kids. It's probably not a good thing. It really just makes their self-esteem, their self-worth go down a lot. You know, don't let your kid hang out with Frankenstein. Your 5-year-old hang out with Frankenstein and just like not know what's happening. Like you don't even know that your kid's friend is Frankenstein.
I'd be jealous as a parent. I'm like, no, I want to hang out with Frankenstein too.
I would too, but the fact that they didn't even know is like, okay,
right.
You know. But, you know, there's a good balance between those two things and like the helicopter parenting we have now. So, you know, try to strike a balance, have your kids wipe their own asses, you know, that kind of stuff. Because I feel like we do a little bit too much of that right now for our own kids.
Yeah, my oldest just went to like preview weekends in college and stuff like that. He's starting college in the fall, which makes me feel incredibly old. But when on the preview thing, like all the incoming freshmen went and did something, and they kept all the parents back. And basically, a lot of what they did when they talked to the parents was like, "Let your kid fail. Like, let your kid screw up in college. Don't be there, you know, all the time. Like, let them spend time on campus. Like, just back off a little bit. Like, you know, this is what they need right now. They're at that age. They need some freedom." So it was kind of, I thought it was kind of interesting though, because it was like a whole like special talk for the parents about not helicoptering, Because I'm sure college deal with that all the time.
Oh yeah. No, they
Deans are getting
do.
calls from moms, people complaining about grades and stuff.
Yeah, and parents don't have the rights at that point anymore. Like you don't. Yeah, my husband was a college professor before he opened a music venue, and yeah, he would get parents because he taught philosophy. There's one voice recording of a mom. It's so fucking hilarious. Like it should be in a metal song. It's about how he is making her daughter. He's like turning her to a demon worshiper because he's turning her away from God. And how can they let this kind of class be taught in schools?
Philosophy.
And it's just philosophy.
Yeah.
It's
How can you teach
hilarious.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
It was good.
All right. Well, Jen, thank you so much for coming on. Where can people find you and your podcast?
So you can find my podcast pretty much anywhere that you get podcasts. I know there are a lot of Scream Queen podcasts out there, but it's just Scream Queen Podcast. I'm one person. So find me. I'm also on Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky at mostly Scream Queen Podcaster with the ER. Find me, please. Thank you for having me on as well. Yeah. I really appreciate you guys and everything that you do. And you guys are a lot of fun. So thank you.
Well, thanks for coming.
Being here.
Yeah. All right. Well, we appreciate everyone for listening. We'd really appreciate if you would give us a rating or review on iTunes, a rating on Spotify, like and subscribe on YouTube, and follow us at Dads from the Crypt Talk on TikTok. And with that, we thank you for listening to Dads from the Crypt.
Follow Dads from the Crypt on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, or I will follow you to the grave. No, seriously, you really should watch. But be careful what you ask for. You may get it.